Welcome back to another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. I'm Brett Snodgrass, and I'm here with my two good buddies, Noah Gilliom and Brian Snyder. And today we are going to rock the house and talk about tenants. And if you're a landlord in Indianapolis, Indiana, what are you going to do as the COVID-19 eats your lunch? I'm just kidding. What are you going to do with your April rent, May rent? How are we going to handle tenants during this dire situation? Let's get to the show. Hey. Again, this is Brett Snodgrass, and thanks again for joining us on the Indy Investor Pod. Again, I'm here with Noah Gilliom. What's going on, Noah?
Hey.
Hey, thanks for being on the show. And, of course, Brian Snyder.
What is going on? I am so excited to talk about tenants today and what's going on with none of us getting any rent money in April.
Hey, we haven't gotten to that part yet. I'm just kidding. Don't spoil it for him. No, but yeah, thanks. We just want to have Noah on the show. Again, Noah is a big part of the Indianapolis investing community. And Noah, why don't you just kind of give what's your company called? And I know you guys run a investment company side. You also run a property management company. So tell us just what are you guys doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So our company is Stewardship Indiana. So we're kind of two-faceted. So we have a property management side, which we have about 150, 160 rental properties. And then we also run a wholesale side. We do like 5, maybe 10 deals on a good month, that kind of thing. So we kind of run both of those right now.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So we just want to really just get into it and bring value to all of our landlords out there. So one of the things that's going on is there's a lot of fear. Number one, there's a lot of fear with tenants. They don't really know what's going to happen. Some of them have lost their jobs. They don't know how they're going to make any income for the next couple of months. And some of them don't know how to pay their rent, right? So the tenants are scared, number one. And then the landlords, the investor side, are also scared. They have a lot of fear and worry in them because a lot of them are really counting on their rent being paid, especially if you have multiple properties. And if you have multiple tenants not paying rent, that could equal thousands of dollars. And they typically still have to pay their bills and mortgages or with whatever bills they have. So we're in this type of situation, and I thought this would be a great show to talk to both Brian, as Brian he works with our tenants on the side of our business, and Noah, who works with obviously hundreds of tenants and what's going on there. So I want to kick this off. Let me just kind of first start with the question, Noah. Just kind of first thoughts, right? So you have this pandemic hitting the whole world, especially Indianapolis, and you're a property management company. What are like some initial thoughts or feedback that you can kind of give our listening audience out there of what you guys are first going to do right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say for us, I've come to realize that landlording is definitely a people business. Obviously, without our tenants, we wouldn't be anywhere. We wouldn't have anybody paying us money. So first and foremost, I've kind of guided our teams in the sense of, look, we get everybody is going through a hard time. Our residents are, our staff is. So everybody, we're all in this together. And if we start trying to strong arm our tenants into paying rent or threatening eviction or doing this and that, they're not going to want to pay anyway. So the biggest thing that I've learned through this, even just I honestly feel like we're kind of at the beginning of it. We still have a long road to go down. Yeah. But I would say communication with our residents has been the biggest key. And honestly, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from it. So I guess I'll kind of go into that a little bit. So we decided to head it off. We knew we were going to get into this, and we knew that April was going to be rough. So we actually put together a letter. And basically in our letter, we said, hey, we understand that we are entering a very tough time. It's tough for us. It's tough for you guys. But let's work together. We need to communicate with each other. And in that, we still do expect that rent is paid on April 1st. However, given the circumstances, if there are hardships of any kind caused directly by the COVID-19 virus, that we would absolutely work with you. The biggest thing is we just need to communicate. Because the last thing residents want to do, even in a normal month, if they're not going to pay rent, they ghost. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to do anything. So they're just going to try to disappear. So we figured if we send them a letter, send them a text message, if we open the conversation for them, they're going to feel a lot more warm and welcome, being like, hey, you know what? I did get laid off. It's going to be a little tight. What can we do? So that's kind of where we started.
Awesome. So communication obviously is the first step, and you put a letter together for your tenants, and you talked about a little bit about what the letter said. And I want to ask Brian too, because we did something very similar, but did you put any specifics in the letter? So number one, you said, yes, we're going through a hard time. Everyone knows that. And is it more of an individual basis? So if they do respond, you set up an individual plan, or was there something in a more specific kind of a blanket solution that if you can't pay rent, here's the solution, right?
Right. So this is more of an individualized plan. So basically we said, if you're directly facing a hardship because of what is going on, because of the COVID-19, we will work with you. Other than that, we have people who don't pay rent every month. That's not going to be any different. So the individualized plan is we just ask them to reach out to us, and then we would work together to come up with a payment plan. And we actually had one example. We had a family reach out. He was like, hey, I'm commission based. I was laid off. I know my rent is 800 something a month, but I can pay 500. And so we're like, okay, great. I really appreciate you offering that. So let's have you pay 500. And then that remaining balance, let's just add it to what you owe to us for the rest of the year and divide it out by the rest of the months. And he was very open to that. So we have paperwork. Obviously, we get everything in writing for our payment plans and stuff like that. But basically, it's going to be a case by case. Hey, let's work together. How much can you pay now? How much do you think you're going to be able to pay? Let's just open this dialogue and see what happens.
Awesome. Sounds good. That's great. Great advice. And I love the spreading over the rest of the year instead of saying, hey, just pay it next month or something like that.
Right,
So
right.
that's good news. So Brian, I want to ask you, I know you've been working with the tenants for our company and something similar, but maybe a little bit of difference. Why don't you tell our audience, what did you do?
Yeah, something very similar to that. I think it's just, I first want to start with this has been, kind of some dialogue going back and forth between some property managers and some landlords and stuff that I've seen on Facebook of just like, should I send a letter or should I give them a call or something? Like, yes, like be proactive about it. Like definitely get in front of it, talk to them. Like that's your kind of position as a landlord or somebody that's overseeing properties that have tenants in it, and just to make sure that you are kind of, at least that you kind of have what's going on. You understand that it's tough. You understand that things are weird right now, but just letting them know of like, hey, it's okay for you to come to me and let's just start this dialogue. If you can't pay rent, like I just want to know about it versus, sending you a 10-day notice here in mid-April or whatever it may be. So definitely be proactive about it. I know some people are kind of thinking like, oh, I don't know if I should like start that conversation or put that thought in their head of like, they're already thinking it. So just go ahead and do it and it's going to be okay and stuff. So I also just want to kind of take a look at of like realistically, like I kind of look at there's 4 jobs that your tenants have. One of them is that they're paying rent. One of them is that they are keeping the house maintained. One of them is that they're informing you of anything that's going on. And then the fourth one is that they're being a good neighbor to the people around them. If they're able to do 3 of those things and maybe they're a little bit short on rent or can they pay some of it, at least they're getting those other 3 things done. And that's a big thing. At least it's not sitting there vacant that, squatters could move into or something like that. So at least it's being protected in some way and being a little secured. So that's one kind of, I guess I'm putting a positive spin on this situation as well. But we kind of did what Noah did. We just kind of got a letter together and put it out there. And we're a little bit different on kind of how we view things as well, because we're just trying to wholesale basically the properties or wholesale them when we look at ours. So honestly, some of these properties are a little bit more valuable to us vacant than they are tenanted. So where no, they want to hold those properties and collect the rent each and every month and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm like, if I can get this vacant, it might be a little bit better. So we just kind of put out some options as well, like Noah did. We put out there that if they can only pay a portion of the rent, we kind of came up with a percentage of what we thought might work. And then like they can pay it out over the next few months or, multiple months and things like that, kind of working through there. But then I also put another something in there of, if they are in a situation where they cannot pay rent and they know they're not gonna be able to pay rent, like going forward, if they have to move in with some other family members, if they know that's probably what's going to happen, of just working with us of like, hey, if you can be out by the 15th of April, I'll actually give you cash for keys. Or you can be out by the end of April. We'll just consider your April rent void and not worry about it, just because that house is valuable to me vacant, and I can get it secured and sell it vacant. So there's some things that we looked at too. And honestly, just since we started texting and sending out a letter and communicating with our tenants, I've already had 2 tenants reach out and say, hey, I know, like, I lost my job. We're going to have to move in with our family. Like, that's what's going to happen. And so we're going to be out by the end of the month. We already know that it's going to be okay. We'll get the property secured. And it was a great transition, and they were okay with how we handled it. We were okay with how they handled it. So I think just opening that communication, like Noah said, is the main thing right now.
Awesome. Sounds good. So it sounds like communication is huge, because I know Brian and I have had that conversation on, like he said, do we send a letter? Do we not? And, we don't want to open up a can of worms if we don't have to, but just being proactive, it sounds like that's what you guys are really suggesting on the communication piece with the tenants. And I'm going to ask Noah you this question. So have you had any tenants literally just flat out say, hey, I lost my job and I can't pay rent, and I don't know when I'm going to pay rent? What would you do in that situation?
Honestly, we haven't had anybody flat out say they're not going to pay rent. We have had multiple job losses, but everybody's kind of scrambled to put something together in a sense. That we haven't had, hey, I'm out of my job, I'm not going to pay your rent, what are we going to do? I think if we did have that, depending on if the residents were inherited or if they were on our lease, I think we would have a different approach. Some of our inherited residents are a little less than what you would want in a resident, I guess is one way to put it. So, I mean, maybe in that case, we would just be like, hey, all right, let's just go ahead, give you this 10-day notice. If you guys hop on out of there, let's just call it even. We can call a spade a spade. You're out, property's empty, we're good to go. Like, it's fine. For other people, I think that we would definitely work with them. We would point them to, I know there's all kinds of lists of resources that are coming out. Trustees' offices, churches helping pay. The list goes on. I honestly, there's so many floating around. I don't know which one's accurate and which one's not, unfortunately, but I know that there's a lot of help and that people in the community are trying to help people out. So I think we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. And I think that'll also be a case by case open dialogue to figure out what we need to do. I think, like I said before, I think landlording is a people business. As much as people want to say that it's like a hard, fast business, you're not going to be successful if your residents aren't successful. And if you don't work with them, they're not going to be able to produce for you.
No, I love that. Thanks, for sharing that. So it sounds like if they're at least making an effort, so communication is the first piece. And then if they show some sort of effort, then you guys are really willing to work with them. You also mentioned some resources. So I don't know if you guys can talk about that a little bit more for the landlords, investors out there. Like, what types of resources have you guys heard of that the government is working on or the city is working on? I think Brian might have put a couple things in your letter about that, but
Yeah, so we put a couple things in our letter about that. The best place to go is kind of just if you go to like the county websites and stuff like that, they're gonna have some resources on there. Or honestly, the Facebook groups, like the neighborhood Facebook groups, are probably one of the best places to go, because they're gonna have like, hey, in this neighborhood, this church is looking to help people, or whatever it may be. So that may be some of the kind of the best places to go. Also, I know on our letter, I also included just some places that I know are hiring. I think it's really important to just kind of keep that dialogue. If people are wanting to make an effort to pay rent, they're also probably going to want to look for, hey, I want to have a job right now. I mean, you have places, basically all the grocery stores, all of the superstores, all the shipping centers and stuff like that. Like, they need employees. They're actually in a position too of, take Walmart, for example, where Walmart are hiring a bunch of people right now, because they want, basically, when this is all blows over, they want to look at who all they have and keep the best and get rid of the people that they need to. So people are looking for good employees in a lot of those places. So there are some jobs out there, and I know there are a lot of people. I mean, there's 50,000 people in Indianapolis right now that file for unemployment. So there's a lot of people out there without jobs. But there are some jobs out there and some opportunities if, some of those tenants are looking for something and want to apply for something. So I think giving those resources as well is a great place to go as a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So Facebook neighborhood groups, I think that's a great resource. And like Brian said, 50,000 Hoosiers have filed for unemployment. And last year around this time, it was 3,000. So it's exponentially grown. And, um, and if you guys are looking, I was actually had another guy on our other podcast talking about recruiting talent. And it could be a decent time now that people are looking for jobs, right? So there's probably some talent out there that if you need some help with certain things in your company, I think it could be a great time to lend a hand and make it a win-win situation for someone and help and give someone a job or employment too.
Yeah, it's definitely the tables have definitely turned. I mean, we look at like back in January, like the statistics at the end of the year and in January for the state of Indiana, for every person that was looking for a job, there was zero point 0.8 jobs available. So there wasn't even enough jobs for people that were like, so it was kind of just a crazy market and stuff like that. So that tables have definitely switched now. So it's, like you said, it's a great time. If you are looking for a job, or your tenants, you have tenants that are really good people that are looking for jobs too, giving them some of those resources, because people want to keep the people that, kind of use it as like a training ground of like, hey, I want to keep this person because they're busting their butt and doing a good job. I also kind of put out there too, of like, if I know the tenants and we've had them for a while, like I have no problem giving a reference to on a job, for a job interview or anything like that. So if they've been a good tenant, I can definitely vouch for them in that case.
Awesome. And I know this is super new. The government's been talking about coming out with some sort of a stimulus package that can help people that are unemployed or tenants in general. But have you guys heard any more information about a stimulus package? I know this
Well,
is
it's
going to
got,
come
so we are just so everybody knows that's listening to this. So we are recording this on Wednesday. It just got approved today. And all the details haven't been released yet, but by the time this is going to air on Monday, so we're going to be a little bit behind of when this is, but hopefully by Monday when we're listening to this and everything, that all that stuff will be released, and you'll kind of know the details of that and stuff. And you have any questions, if you listen to this, you have any questions about it, like hit us up on an email, and we can kind of give you the rundown and help you out with any of that stuff.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So as we're wrapping up the last probably 4 or 5 minutes of this show, I want to ask Noah this question real quick. Is there anything that a landlord should like not do during this time, like some no-nos that you would just suggest?
I would say, being a fan of bigger pockets, I've seen a lot of bad letters that have gone out, and I would say the biggest no right now would be to say, "Hey, your rent is still due on April 1st. If you don't pay it, I'm gonna evict you." This, that, and the other. I mean, everybody's already under a ton of stress. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. There are so many unknowns. So upsetting your tenants is really not going to help you at all, because maybe they could pay rent, but now they're like, you know what? I don't want to pay this guy anyway. He was rude, mean, all kinds of other words. So I would say forcing them to, or trying to force their hand to pay, threatening them with eviction, um, telling them, hey, you didn't pay your rent, I'm not going to make repairs, your toilet's going to leak and you're going to pay a higher water bill. I would say threatening any of the services you would offer for them not paying would be a big no in this case. You still want to do the best to maintain a positive relationship, maintain your property, and just keep that line of communication open. So I would say blanket threats in this situation are going to be the biggest no-go for me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Brian,
I think it's, I think that's not necessarily, kind of speaking on the same thing. It's not necessarily like a no, but something that you can like really do, just kind of dispel some of the myths that are out there. Like, I had a tenant like say like, oh, well, we don't have to pay rent in April. Like, hasn't it been forgiven by the government? Like, no, it's like you still have to pay rent. But they literally didn't know. They were like, they weren't just like trying to see what was going on. They really thought that was the case. I'm like, no, you still like rent is still due. This is kind of the situation that's going on. I was like, right now we can't file eviction, but if we, they're because they've kind of, they put a hiatus on that or whatever. But if you don't pay rent in April, then like once the the eviction has been lifted, that ban has been lifted, then I will file then. So I still need to pay. I still need to go on. It's still, everybody still needs to pay rent. It's just a myth that you do that. Nobody has to pay rent for the month of April in any of the states in the U.S. or anything. But so just taking that opportunity to just kind of make sure that you're speaking into them and helping them out and helping them understand everything that's going on, and that kind of comes down to that communication as well. But yeah, like what Noah said of like just kind of doing that threatening of like, nope, you have to pay. This is what's going on and stuff like that. Because you're not going to be able to do anything about it for the next, month and a half at least. It's probably going to be longer than that. So
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Have you guys heard anything just kind of about the evictions? I know they've suspended them right now, but have they mentioned a time period or?
We talked to our attorney the other day, and that was when, so it was that the courts were closed, but we could still file. But then I think it was last week sometime they actually put a stop to, you can't even file anymore. And I think we were looking at, I want to say he said around a month to 2 months before he thinks things are gonna happen. And I mean, with the courts closing down, we're gonna have the backlog coming from when they did shut down. We're gonna have all of that to work through. Then they're gonna get to the new ones. So I think it could be at least 2 to 3 months probably before we would have an eviction go through if it does make it that far.
yeah, the last I heard was May 1st is going to be the first time we can start filing again or anything. So yep.
Awesome. I got 2 more questions for you guys. So do you have any advice for the landlords? So let's say, obviously, we've talked about the rent. Should they do anything else proactively with their bills? Maybe they have a mortgage company or they owe utilities or some other type of, fee that they have to pay regarding this particular property. You
Yeah,
guys have
so
any advice for them?
I would say with any of those cases, it never hurts to ask. The worst that can happen is somebody just tells you no. So I know a couple buddies that just basically for their office spaces that they rent out or anything like that, they've just gone and say like, hey, can I not pay you rent for the next 3 months and just kind of prorate it for the rest of the year? And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, that's fine. Or some people maybe they need that payment coming in, so they might say no. But I just say with any of that stuff, it never hurts to ask, or just I know there's programs too, where some credit cards are offering some crazy, just programs and stuff right now that you can get some just cash out and, have some money to have, just get it, or I'm sorry, just like cash out on the credit card. That way you have it for like 0% for a certain amount of months too. So there's a ton of opportunities that you can do stuff like that if you have things available to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would piggyback off that. I would say definitely talking to your lenders, see what's going on, seeing if they are doing any kind of freeze, if you can do late payments and prorate. Utility companies, I know a lot in the Indy area are freezing late payments. They aren't doing late fees. They aren't doing disconnects. So, I mean, if you are finding yourself in the bad spot of, hey, I can't pay this utility bill for my tenant or something like that, don't worry about the power being shut off. I guess depending on what kind of situation and stuff that you're in, you need to prioritize what your bills are, what really needs to be paid, what you can kind of put on the back burner and pay later. But I would say, yeah, just talking to people that you have bills with and seeing what kind of policies they have and what options you have would be a good idea.
Cool. Awesome. And I know this is a loaded question. This will be the last one of the show, but do you guys have any predictions? Indianapolis real estate investing for the rest of this year, even, obviously we're looking at the next month or two, but do you guys have any personal opinions on the next, 8 months, 9 months?
Oh man, I would say so. The guys I've talked to and a lot of the guys on our buyers list and stuff, we're kind of split 50-50. We have some guys who are like, let's do the biggest marketing campaign ever. Let's hit this hard. Let's go. And then we have other people who are like, I'm not touching anything with a 50-foot pole. So we're in there are people in two very different camps. So I think deals will still happen. I mean, if it's a good deal, it's a good deal. And I think there are people who are financially capable to buy those and capitalize on that. And so I think if good deals are flowing, you might get less offers on them. You might have to work a little harder to dispo them. But I think those are still going to happen. We've seen on our rental side that we still have hundreds of people looking daily. There is no shortage of people looking for a place to move in. Obviously you have to screen very heavily, but that would be whole nother episode on property management. But
We'll have you back for that one later.
But I would say, I mean, we're not showing any signs of slowing down on the rental and lease up side of things. But I think the market, yeah, we're going to be slow for the next few months, but I really think in the coming months, maybe 4 or 5 months out from now, I think we will do very well in being able to help refoot the market in the Indy area.
Awesome. Brian, any predictions?
my prediction is that I'm pretty sure in saying this that it's not going to last. It's just this 2 weeks. It's going to last longer than this 2 weeks. So, yeah.
A very bold
It's going to
statement.
last a little longer than that. We'll see what happens, but I think it's just, just my advice for any of that. I mean, we still have a bunch of people that are buying and stuff like that, and we still, we're still getting properties dispoed out, and that hasn't been a big of an issue right now and stuff. And we still have a lot of properties coming in and stuff. But I think it's just one of those things that if you have cash and you have funds available, or you have lenders you have good relationships with, like it's going to be a pretty good time to buy. But if you're like over leveraging, or just you're really scared to buy, like hold off a little bit and make sure you have your numbers right, make sure you have your finances in order before you make big moves or anything like that. So.
Right.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you, Noah, for being on the show. Brian, you're always on the show, but thanks for giving your insight on today's podcast episode. And this kind of wraps up today's Indy Investor Pod. Thank you guys for listening. If you guys have any things that you want us to discuss, talk about, please check us out on Facebook. You can look up Brian Snyder on Facebook, or you can look up Brett Snodgrass on Facebook. And you can find us on there. Shoot us any questions that you want us to talk about, any people that you want to have on the show. This is probably the one and only show, honestly, talking about Indianapolis real estate investing. And so that's what we're talking about, and we're digging deep into that. And this is making history right now with what's going on, and we got a lot of current event stuff that we're able to talk about, honestly. But we have a list of questions that we're going to be going over about hot areas of Indianapolis, about doing the BRRRR strategy. We've been talking a lot about the tenants lately, and we'll be continuing following what's going to happen the next couple months with this. So thanks, you guys, again, and we'll see you next time.